I'm pro saxophonist Jamie Anderson, and you're watching Get Your Sax Together, the home of free online saxophone lessons. Now this week, I'm going to tackle something which I get a lot of questions about, and it's to do with the blues scale. Specifically, the major version of the blues scale versus the minor version of the blues scale. What the notes are, how you can use them, and all that sort of stuff. So I am going to clear this all up for you. Don't you worry. But just before we get there, if you want to improve your sax playing all round, check out my free Saxophone Success Masterclass using the link there. There's a bunch of really cool stuff to really improve your playing. You're going to love it. Just fill in your email. It's all yours. Help yourself. And also, there'll be a lot more detail about all this inside the Inner Circle membership, and a lot more besides, like a monthly Q&A where you can ask me anything right there in the session, special live guests, and a bunch of other really cool content, including an inspirational solo of the month. So I invite you to go and check out the Inner Circle, because believe me, it is a pretty awesome place to be. All right, moving swiftly on. Let's look at these blues scales and clear this up once and for all, shall we? And I should say, keep watching till the very end of the video, because I've got a couple of really important pro tips which are going to transform how good these two types of blues scale sound. Okay, I cannot wait to clear this up for you, because I know a lot of people struggle with this thing about the major and minor version of the blues scale, what the notes are and how you can use it. So what I'm going to do is jump straight behind the screen into the teaching mode, so we'll have a little look at this, shall we? Okay, let's start clearing up all this blues scale stuff once and for all. We're going to start with the major version of the blues scale, and that is the one that you can see at the top. We're in the key of A, okay? So it's not a major blues scale. This is a major blues scale. Now you'll see in the diagram that I've got these little anchors. Why have I got those anchors in there, these magnets? It's because the root of the key that you're in is the magnet that draws you into that home note. It's the most important note of whatever key you're in. If you're in A major, the note with the most magnetism that's going to pull you home is A. Okay? Simple common sense. So when you're in the key of A, the root is A, and that is the home note which draws you back. That is why I've got those magnets, to show you that the root is the note that's being pulled to. Now, going up the scale, we've got A, which is 1, B, which is 2, C natural, which is flat 3. Let me mark these in. Okay, we've got 1, we've got 2, we've got flat 3, which is a C natural. Now, when we say flat 3, the bit in parenthesis which is missing is compared to the major scale of the same root. Okay, compared to the major scale of the same root. Now, what do I mean by that? I just mean that if you have an A major scale, you've got 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So normally the third note of A major is a C sharp, but in this case, it's a C natural. So the third note is flattened, flat 3. Then we have the normal third note of the scale, okay? So we've got flat 3, then 3, and then we've got 5 and 6, and then we're back to the root. Why do I say 5 and 6? Because it's the 5th and 6th notes of the normal A major scale. So 1, 2, flat 3, and natural 3. Well, it's not natural in this case, it's sharp, but the normal 3, let's call it. 5 and 6, and then you're back to the root. Now remember that the magnet is pulling you home to that A. So let me just play the notes of the A major blues scale for you so that you can hear them. Here we go. That is a major blues scale. 1, 2, flat 3, normal 3, 5 and 6. Right, let's now move on to the minor blues scale. Now, every major key has its kind of somber relative. And if you go down 3 semitones from the major key you're in, you get a relative minor key. The relative minor is always 3 semitones down, which is the same thing as the 6th note of the major scale that you're in. So we're in A major, A, B, C sharp, D, E, and 6 is F sharp. So the relative minor of A major is F sharp minor. Now, here's the cool bit, okay? The notes of the F sharp minor blues scale are exactly the same as the notes of the A major blues scale. Look, A, B, C, C sharp, E, and F sharp. All the notes are exactly the same, except this time, look where the magnets are. The magnets are pulling you to the home note of F sharp, not to the home note of A. All right? The magnets are pulling you to the home note of F sharp, not to the home note of A. Apart from that, all the notes that you're going to use, the actual pitches, are exactly the same. However, if we describe this minor blues scale within the context of an F sharp root, and let's imagine we had an F sharp major scale, then the scale degrees are different. They're 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, and flat 7. And remember the bit that's missing? In comparison to a major scale from the same root. So if you had an F sharp major scale, you would flatten the third, you'd have the root, you'd flatten the third, you'd have the fourth note, you'd flatten the fifth, you'd have the fifth note, and you'd flatten the seventh and have that note. And this is what the minor blues scale sounds like. And don't forget, these are exactly the same notes as A major. So the A major blues scale and the F sharp minor blues scale, the actual notes themselves are interchangeable. However, the root that you're pulled to, your home note, is different. F sharp minor is F sharp, A major, it's A. Now, what I like to do is, instead of just writing out the scale as you can see it there from root to root, I like to have these scales written out across the whole range of the instrument. Why? Because that is how you're going to be improvising. So if I now, with a magic wipe of my marker, open up the whole scale, woo, look at this. By the magic of technology, I'm going to open up the whole scale. There we go. Oh, that's cool, isn't it? All right, I think I've got everything. Oh no, there's a piece missing. There we go. That was fun. All right, now, we've now got the whole scale. Missing a few note names there. All right, we've now got the whole scale across the whole range of the instrument. And there's a few other little cool features which weren't there before. So let's have a little look what we got now. We've got these blue notes, okay? Now, the blue note in the major blues scale is the flattened third. The blue note in the minor blues scale is the flattened fifth. Now, it's called the blue note because that's the note that gives the scale its real bluesy characteristic, and that's what separates it from just a regular 5-note pentatonic scale, this blue note in the middle of the scale. And when you improvise with the blues scale, you can use that blue note to bend into and kind of shape and really extract all that feeling out of the blues scale. So that's why I've marked in the blue note. So each scale now has its root, which is where you're being pulled home to, and the blue note. And you want to be a little bit sparing about how you use those blue notes, because if you linger on those blue notes, they're not going to sound very good. You want to bounce off those blue notes. Right. So, same notes, different roots. That is the difference between A major blues scale and F sharp minor blues scale, which is the blues scale from the relative minor. Now, I've got a backing track to illustrate this for you lovely people. All that's going to happen on the backing track is that there's a drone, and it's going to start off as an A major drone. Then the root is going to change, and it's going to be an F sharp minor drone. And then back to A, and then back to F sharp minor. Now what I'm going to do is just noodle around on exactly the same notes each time. But when the root changes, you'll hear that those exact same notes kind of take on a slightly different character. So let's see what this sounds like using exactly the same notes, but when you hear the bass note change underneath it, you'll hear the character of the scale change with it, even though they're the same notes. And this is something really important to remember. So the A major blues scale and the F sharp minor blues scale, same notes, and the bass note in the drone is going to change. can hear, it's changed back to the A major sound. And now we're back to the F sharp minor sound. Okay, so that illustrates how the same notes can sound different depending on what the context of the backing track is. So using that drone backing track, you've now heard how the same notes sound different in that different context depending what the root bass note is, depending what the note with the most magnetism is, whether it be A or F sharp in this example. I'm talking in tenor pitch, by the way. Let's now just do one more backing track, and this is going to be in a shuffle groove, okay? We're going to put it in an actual context. So first of all, here's what the A major blues scale sounds like with an A root over a bluesy shuffle backing track. This is what it sounds like in the actual context that you might well be using it, okay? Now remember, use that C natural blue note with a little bit of caution, okay? If you linger on these blue notes too long, they're not going to sound great. So try and like bounce off them. So first of all, we're going to look at the A major blues scale with an A major backing track. Here we go. Here's what it sounds like.
Chorus 2. 2, 3, 4. Chorus 3.
Okay, now let's do exactly the same thing, but we're going to take it into an F sharp minor key. Same notes, different magnet being pulling you to a different root. In this case, the root is now going to switch to F sharp, but we're going to use exactly the same notes, and you'll see how those same notes sound a little bit different with the change of key. Let's now move to F sharp minor. Here we go. 3, 4, chorus. So that gives you an idea how the same notes with a different emphasis home note can sound exactly the same. Okay, so that's the difference between F sharp minor and A major. The A major blues scale on the F sharp minor blues scale. Now, that's all very well, but I know perfectly fine that you want to be able to mix up the major blues scale and the minor blues scale in the same key. So let's move on to the next slide and the next phase, and let's talk about A major blues scale and A minor blues scale instead of F sharp minor blues scale. Okay, here we go. So far, we have learnt that the major blues scale, which is 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, and 6, those same notes can be used in the relative minor. So you go down 3 semitones to find your relative minor, and that gives you the minor blues scale, which in the minor key would be 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, and flat 7. Okay, all well and good. So we know that the major blues scale fits over a major key, and we know that the minor blues scale fits over a minor key. But here's the really cool thing, okay? You can also use the minor blues scale on a major key. Now, before you ask, no, you can't use the major blues scale on a minor key. All right? It only goes one way. So when you're in the key of A, you can use an A major blues scale or an A minor blues scale. They both fit. They've got a different sound, but they both fit. However, if you were in F sharp minor, for example, you can use the F sharp minor blues scale, but you can't use the F sharp major blues scale because that major third is just too much of a clash to sound very good. So major and minor blues scale fit a major key. Only a minor blues scale fits a minor key. So that's your first route, okay? That's your first take home, not your first route. Right, so we're already familiar with our A major blues scale. You can see it up there, and we know that that fits the A major key just fine. All right, no sweat. However, let's now look at the A minor blues scale, okay? The A minor blues scale. Now, what have we learned about minor blues scales? You go up 3 semitones, and that will give you the major blues scale, which you can then use. So up 3 semitones from A takes you to C. So we would use the C major blues scale. Okay, remember the C major blues scale and the A minor blues scale are the same. Now, if you were in the key of C, you'd have 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, and 6. Okay, the first note of C major is C. The second note of C major is D. The flattened third note of C major is E flat. The third note of C major is E. The fifth note of C major is G. And the sixth note of C major is A. So that gives us those notes: C, D, E flat, E, G, and A. Now remember though, we're not in C major, we're in A minor. So let's now take those same notes, and the magnet, the root, the note pulling you home is now an A, not a C. But we use exactly the same notes. Now, if you describe those same notes in the key of A minor, that's 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, which is the blue note, remember, 5, and flat 7. Now, remember the missing bit? That's 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, and flat 7 compared to the notes of the normal major scale from that root. Compared to the notes of the normal major scale from that root. Now, if you did an A major scale from that root and you flatten the third note, you get a C. The fourth note is D. If you flatten the fifth note, you get E flat. The fifth note is E, and the flattened seventh note is G. Because remember, normally the seventh note of A major is a G sharp. Right. Enough about all the technical stuff. We want to know how this all works on the coalface. So now we've got the theory out of the way. We've got our 2 different scales, the A minor blues scale and the A major blues scale. Now, one thing that a lot of people often ask is, do you now just jumble up all those notes together into one kind of mix-up? And the answer is, no, you don't. Why don't you? Because if you did, you'd get almost every note of the chromatic scale. You'd have A, B, C natural, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F sharp, G, and A. That would just be a complete mess. So what you do instead is you use one scale and you kind of play a whole phrase with it. Then you switch and use the other scale and play a whole phrase with it, or a whole kind of meaningful chunk, let's call it. It might not be a whole phrase. So play something strong with the major blues scale, then play something strong with the minor blues scale. Now, they've both got a bit of a different sound. They've both got a bit of a different sound. And very shortly, I'm about to illustrate that. But first of all, let's do the big reveal and show all the rest of the notes from that scale. So here's the rest of the notes of the major blues scale. There we go. I think that's everything. And here's the rest of the notes from the minor blues scale written across the whole range of the saxophone. There we go. Now remember, you're going to be using these blue notes with a bit of caution. because if you just hang around on an E flat the whole time, it's going to sound a bit weird in the key of A major. Now, after I've demonstrated this, I'm going to tell you the real secret about using these scales and how it actually works if you actually want to sound good, because the devil's in the detail. But there's the two scales written across the whole range of the instrument. You've got your home key. Now look, here's the interesting thing. The home key is A. There's your magnet going to A. And down here, your home key is also A. Do you remember before that our home key was F sharp, the relative minor? Not anymore. Both of the home notes are A now. So we're gonna improvise using the A major blues scale and the A minor blues scale over the same major backing track. And that is exactly what I'm about to do. So let's go back to our A. I'm talking all the time, I'm talking in tenor pitch, by the way, just to make it easy. Let's get the backing track on. And first of all, I'm going to improvise using the A major blues scale, and then I'll switch to the A minor blues scale. Okay, here's the A major blues scale to start. Switch to A minor.
Chorus 2.
Okay, back to A
2,
major.
3, 4. Chorus 3.
A minor. A major.
2,
A minor.
3, 4. Chorus 4.
A major. Okay, in the next chorus, I'm going to mix them up and see if you can tell the difference between the two scales as I play them.
2, 3, 4. Chorus 5.
So there you go. That's what happens when you mix up the two scales and you play them in chunks. Now, after a while, you'll start to get the hang of the sound of both of those scales. And you'll realize that the A minor blues scale, the minor blues scale is that kind of darker sound because there's no major third, there's no major sixth, and you've got that flattened fifth, which is very distinctive in there. So it's like a minor pentatonic with that flattened fifth. And the major blues scale, one of the most distinctive things about it is the fact you've got that natural sixth. So that kind of gives it, it sounds strange to say uplifting for a blues, but it's got a slightly more upbeat sound about it. Okay, now let's move on to the secret tip, which is going to unlock how you sound good using these blues scales. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you this. It's all very well knowing the theory, it's all very well knowing what notes to use, but that doesn't mean you're going to sound good when you play the blues. All right? It's just not. Number one, the blues is all about the feeling and that emotion and, you know, communicating so much stuff through the music, which isn't anything to do with the notes. However, even if we are dealing with the notes, what you really want to do is get yourself a few choice, juicy, stock blues phrases which you can use to sound good using the major blues scale and the minor blues scale. And you'll probably find that whatever phrases you learn from the major blues scale will work well in the relative minor as well, even though they've got a different home note. So instead of just randomly noodling around using these scales, you want to learn some really choice phrases to use. So, for example, if I did 4 bars of the major blues scale, 4 bars of the minor blues scale, and then back to 4 bars of the major blues scale, but I didn't have any stock licks or vocabulary language to fall back on, it's going to sound something like this. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, chorus. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound too great to me. So, using those same scales, which is going to be the major blues scale for 4, minor blues scale for 4, major blues scale for 4, I'm going to play a bit more blues language, just taken from scraps that I've magpied over the years. Now, if you want to see a whole video on how to do this, go and click the video there. Once you finish this video, don't click off yet. It'll be in the description as well. I've got a whole video teaching you how to take blues licks and make them your own. So let's do that again, but this time I'm going to be using a bit more blues vocabulary, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it should sound a little bit better. Here we go. So that's me using a bit of language to make those blues scales really come to life, and it gives you something to hang your hat on, so to speak. Learn some really nice juicy vocab and you'll really sound so much better using the blues scale. Now here's one final bonus tip, which is if you also know the chords of the blues, you can mix up when you use the major third and when you use the minor third to sound even better than before. Now, this is explained in the video you can see linked to there, which will also be in the description. So again, after you finish this video, go and check that one out. But when you start mixing up the major third and the minor third, then it starts to sound a little bit like this. This will be the final example. So that is all that I've got to teach you about the major and the minor blues scales, which is quite a lot to learn. So feel free to watch this video several times and start getting familiar with your major blues scales and your minor blues scales, and start with the keys that are quite popular in the band that you play in. Like maybe you play in an R&B band and all the time you're playing in E and A, like guitar keys. Well, learn your E major blues scale, your E minor blues scale. Well, if you play tenor, it would be F sharp, or alto, it would be C sharp. Yeah, so learn it in the transposition you've got. And, learn your concert A major blues scale and your concert A minor blues scale. Just start with those keys that you use the most, and then gradually start getting familiar with the other keys. At the same time, start building up a vocabulary of 2 or 3 great licks in each key. Just listen to all your favourite players and work out the notes of little fragments that sound good and start working them into your own solos. So that's all we've got time for this week. As you can see, I'm still battling a little eye infection, hence I've still got the old bins of sophistication on. So a bit of a hassle, but there you go. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to really transform your own sax playing, go and check out the Saxophone Success Masterclass. I should say that all this stuff is covered in depth inside my Improvisation Mastery course. So if you really want to get the inside line on how to do all this stuff properly, and all those backing tracks that you've been listening to today are in Improvisation Mastery, if you've ever signed up for one of my PDFs, or if you go and watch the masterclass, you'll be on my email list and you'll always be notified when that course becomes available. Good news. Also, if you bought me a coffee, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Every milligram of caffeine helps me bring this kind of goofy enthusiasm that you see before you know. And until next week, I hope you practice hard, practice smart, and enjoy your music. Take it easy. So that's all we got time for this week. As you can, I can do. Let's switch like this. Boom. That did not work, guys. Nice.